Black Myth Wukong is a great game, but as we all know deep in our hearts, it's sexist. That's right, you chuds. So it's not getting Game of the Year. It's not even allowed to be nominated, in fact. At least that's what I think is going to happen.
Now, ever so often, there's a game that comes out that meets and exceeds the expectations of the players. It blows our minds. It's so good, but for some odd reason, it doesn't meet the same expectations for games media. Our interests aren't aligned. Our perspectives are not.
Because they are paid actors, they have not your best interests at heart. They are corrupt and evil. They spread evil, and they only exist to destroy.
Necessarily the same.
That's almost a Tolkien saying.
And there's conflict in that. And I think that Black Myth Wukong is one of those games. And don't get me wrong, the game reviewed very well. It got over an 80 on most review sites. But with that said, up until the game...
Still versed in Veilglod. Still versed in Starfield, by the way. Still versed in all of your favorite games that are somehow magically dead after 2 days. Well, I guess it makes sense somehow.
Game's release, and then even after the game's release, it was under a constant barrage of negative criticism that had nothing to do with the game whatsoever, and in that, the game never really got a fair shake, at least not in my eyes. Now, 2024 has been an absolutely insane year for games. There are so many great games to play, and if you're one of those people that are out there that are...
Actually, you know what, this is pretty true. There has been a lot of good stuff, except Diablo 4.
They're like, gaming is dying. Let me be the first to tell you, you need to play more games, or just not the same ones over and over again. The list, once...
I'm one of those people who is kind of the opinion gaming is dying, because the DEI garbage is being pushed so heavily, okay? For every Black Myth Wukong, for every Space Marine 2, for every Helldivers, even though that had problems, for every Hogwarts Legacy, for every all of these good games that exceed expectations, there are sadly roughly 4 to 5 completely rogue garbage fires that try to subvert what we love gaming in general and make it into something defiled.
Once I get into some of the Game of the Year contenders, it's going to blow your mind because I honestly forgot how many games even came out this year. This isn't about the award. It's about the recognition that these studios deserve, the reward they deserve beyond just making money. It's making sure that it's known why these games are great so that other publishers and studios can see, hey, this is what it is. This is how we make a game that the players love. And it's not, again, just not the money. But already I'm starting to see games media want to preemptively push back about Black Myth Wukong being in the Game of the Year category, and we're going to talk about that. Before that, today's sponsor. War Thunder is a massive...
Great sponsor, no one cares.
This video. We have had a monstrous year in games, and it's wild to think that it's not even over yet with more releases right around the corner. This is about the time of year that Game of the Year candidates are being discussed and debated, and this year we have a lot of difficult choices to make. Dragon's Dogma 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Helldivers 2, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, Persona 3 Reloaded, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Silent Hill 2 Remake are among the highest...
Ooh, dude, Metaphor ReFantazio is gonna claim a bunch of slots, 100%, 100%. Again, it's literally just another Persona 5 game. What's not to love?
Scoring games that we've had from reviewers this year. That's 8 games when only 6 games can be qualified as candidates. We're not even mentioning the stockpile of games that were scored just under that, with titles like Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Unicorn Overlord, Space Marine 2, and more. 2024...
The hell is Unicorn Overlord? Overload. Never heard of that one.
...has been packed with games, but only a few titles are deserving of being crowned King of the Year. And for many players, that game is Black Myth Wukong. James Throtton of the...
You know what's not exciting about the Game of the Year award? It's literally just gonna be the most popular thing, because that's objectively the right call, okay? So, Black Myth Wukong can't fail because people played it, people loved it, okay? So there's not even a competition. It's Black Myth Wukong. It cannot be honestly anything else, even though there are tons of other good games, right? It's just the most popular. That's how these things work. That's why they're kind of boring. Like, for example, the streamer awards or whatever the fuck. Yeah, the person with the most views on their stream is gonna win. Wow. Fucking wow.
Gamer penned an article titled, "If Black Myth Wukong isn't nominated for Game of the Year, fans are going to be insufferable." James writes, "Black Myth Wukong is a very good action game, taking the Souls-like formula and stretching it into a boss rush format. Its popularity even surpasses that of its inspirations, garnering millions of players in mere days. It's a genuine contender for the Game Awards, but with how stacked 2024 is shaping up to be, competition is fierce." Polygon recently updated its Game of the Year frontrunner list, while the Golden Joystick Awards announced its 6 nominees for this year's PC and console Game of the Year categories. Black Myth Wukong is nowhere to be seen outside of smaller categories, and so TikTok right now is a deluge of angry gamers declaring that games media is corrupt and that it's all a part of some wider conspiracy. The game was not rigged from the start, it's just been...
Because it typically is. I mean, you can talk about political conspiracies all that you want, but I mean, we all have known that the games media, it has been completely corrupt for years upon years upon years upon years now.
A very, very competitive year. This week alone, we've had Silent Hill 2 Remake, Metaphor Refantasio, and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, 3
The Silent Hill remake, Silent Hill 2 remake actually woke-ish, and the Silent Hill 2 remake, the one where you can pretty much describe it as, no, she does not want to speak with you, and a fat veil steps in front of you. Is that one? Because I do not pay attention to horror games pretty much ever, honestly. So I don't know, but there was one of these remakes of a horror game where they completely uglified all the female characters once again.
Critically acclaimed hits that are all vying for the spotlight with equal fervor. Earlier this year, we saw the launch of Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Tekken 8, Helldivers 2.
Astrobot is never winning. Sure, yeah, it looks like a fun game, it looks, people like it, but never winning. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, probably not. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the Like a Dragon series is fun and shit, but it's definitely not Game of the Year. A fighting game? Tekken 8? Please, 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 no. Okay, that's not even... Okay, Tekken 8 is not even a real game, honestly. I'm kind of joking, but semi-not joking. Dragon's Dogma 2. I think Dragon's Dogma falls in the same vein as Hogwarts Legacy. AK, it's a great game. People love it, but they kind of play it and that's it. You know, effectively, it's like the Dark Souls or, Elden Ring type of situation. People play it, people like it, people stop playing it. There you go. There you go. It's just purely that simple, honestly. Admittedly, things like Elden Ring do stay longer in the cultural zeitgeist because of very simple reasons, like there's story elements that need to be explained, there's videos, there's hidden shit and things like that. It has a lot more of that, so it stands and people talk about it longer. But still, in general, it's a great game that people play, and then they stop it. And that's Dragon's Dogma, Hogwarts Legacy, and a lot of other things like that.
And Dragon's Dogma. That's not to mention the stellar year it's been for indies. Black Myth Wukong, while good, we scored it 4 stars, just doesn't measure up to the greats. Hell, it's not even the best Souls-like this year, as that award goes to Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. For those that have used Wukong as fuel in a culture war since before it was even released, its absence on these lists is an attack. It's a ploy by games media for reasons, even though it has an open critic aggregate of 82. There's one big argument cropping up across Reddit and slowly replacing all the goth girls on my For You page as to why it deserves to be nominated. It sold well. James.
Yeah. People liked it a lot. No one gives a shit what the games media is trying to say. It currently has like 100k plus per concurrent players. That's insane. That is insane. Let's actually check. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree Steam DB. Okay. And then let's check Black Myth Wukong. Okay, Let's check both of these. Okay. Oh. Yep. Let's check. I don't see the average player count for Shadow of the Earth 3. Yeah, but Black Myth Wukong currently has 80k players, a 100k 24-hour peak. Let's just check Elden Ring Steam DB. Maybe that's how we say that. Yeah. Elden Ring currently has 30k players right now, 36k peak. There's a difference, okay? I mean, it will depend on who you like more as a player, but, you know, is the fervor of the Elden Ring player base really enough to surpass the fact that Black Myth Wukong seems actually kind of bigger currently? Because, damn, boy. I mean, damn, boy. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard.
Games, I will speak for those that you are arguing against. Black Myth Wukong doesn't deserve to be nominated because of its sales. It deserves to be nominated because it is the first ever release from a studio, an inexperienced studio, that made a stunningly gorgeous game with great combat.
Literally don't give a shit if a studio is experienced or not, okay? That does not make me like a game more if it's a studio's first, second, or 50th game.
A compelling story, beautiful music, incredibly detailed and culturally accurate environments, some of the most unique boss encounters I've seen in a game like this, and themes that we don't often see in games. It was original, fresh, and most importantly, fun. And while many of the
Okay, this is probably a hot take, but Black Myth Wukong is not original in even the slightest bit, okay? If there's one original thing about Black Myth Wukong is that you can turn into a fucking cicada, okay? That's it. There is nothing else original about Black Myth Wukong, and guess what? That doesn't matter. Completely doesn't matter. We don't need to reinvent the wheel to call something good.
The games that were mentioned in this article are incredible games. They are just copies of previous titles or even remakes. The industry should be celebrating and rewarding studios that work this hard, take a risk, and deliver something altogether new. And we're not even mentioning how the game sold at a fair price. I am so exhausted by this. Do you want to know why players think there's some grand conspiracy? Do you want to know why they think there's some media bias? Well, you're not doing yourself any service when you try to minimize the game at every given turn. You called it a Souls-like. It's not even a Souls-like. I actually did the same thing in a video too, so I'm actually not going to take points away from you for that. But I don't understand where this idea that this...
I feel completely comfortable calling Black Myth Wukong a Souls-like game. No problem right there. Don't see the problem. It kind of is almost like one. But it's not. Yes, it's not. But, you know.
This game somehow became something that the culture war LARPers had latched onto even before its release. Because to my recollection, the only thing that I can remember is Games Media were the ones that were pushing these allegations from IGN against game science through different articles. And then also at the exact same time, there were a ton of people pining over tweets that were completely mistranslated. If anything, it was Games Media that was dragging this game into the culture war, not the other way around. It's just not true. The entire time before this game's release, and this is the reason why I say the game didn't get a fair shake, is that every single time this game was brought up, it was always with a qualifier. Black Myth Wukong is a fantastic action game, but there was this report from IGN that was also based on some mistranslations, but we don't really care about that much. But anyway, they said some things, or they do some things we don't necessarily...
Oh yeah, there was some BS about some mistranslations or something that literally no one cares about. 10 out of 10.
...really agree with. Black Myth Wukong, we're giving an 8 out of 10, but... just to let you know, we saw some tweets that were also mistranslated, and we didn't really like exactly what they said or the things that this company stands for. It was always like that. The game never got a fair chance, at least in the media light. And that's not the same for every other game that was out there. All the rest of the games never had any of this kind of stuff. And The worst part is again, all of these things were alleged, never even proven, yet they were.
Now, to be fair, does it matter for Game of the Year? Probably not, because you need to understand how Game of the Year awards and streaming awards and all of this shit works. They literally cannot not pick the most popular thing. It doesn't matter if all the critics scored Black Myth Wukong -8 on the scale of 1 to 10. As long as it has the most fans, the most players, the most buys, they're gonna have to include it, because that's the thing. These shows, these things, make their money by having the maximum audience. So they literally, as a business, cannot not pick the most popular things. It's the same for the streaming award shit. It's always the most popular streamers without exception. Like, how many times in the streaming awards or whatever it's called, you have some BS nomination like Pokimane or some other garbage dumpster fire like her, as the most innovative streamer of the year for doing literally nothing. Because they need to be on these nominations so their fans watch the thing and make them more money. That's how this works. So, if they stifle Black Myth Wukong, the most biggest and popular game of the year, that's gonna be insane. That's gonna be absolutely insane.
Touted as fact. They were included in game reviews, game review videos,
The
and
hell
reviews.
just happened here?
You don't think that's too far? What do you think is the purpose of that when you put that stuff into an article other than to minimize the game and hopefully steer players away from buying it? That's the point. You want to understand and know why players think there's some grand conspiracy? Well, it's not hard for them to jump to that conclusion when it's staring them 2 inches from their face. On the topic of the game's sales, the writer continues with,
Also, that's why Trump won, baby. Woo!
it's hardly a compelling defense, but sales figures have long been used as evidence that supposedly anti-woke games like Wukong are what your everyday gamer really wants. In reality, it was a success because the game was marketed to the enormous untapped Chinese demographic. It was only made.
I mean, that's slightly true, to be honest. That is definitely true to an extent. But yeah, this is like the famous death rattle. We know you think you're right, but trust me, baby, you're still kind of wrong in some ways. These are just the famous things like, oh, it's not happening. Oh, what do you see right in front of your eyes is not happening. It's so stupid.
Demographic. It was only made worse when streamers were supposedly sent guidelines asking them not to mention feminist propaganda or politics. Black Myth Wukong became the poster child for the...
Oh, you know how you hate woke gaming? Bruh, relax. You don't actually hate woke gaming, okay? You don't understand. You actually love woke gaming. You love all the woke slop that's coming down through the pipeline. You fucking love it, in fact. You're just misunderstanding what's happening. It's insane that they think that this is actually gonna work. Okay, it's insane that they think that they can just make us ignore what's right in front of our eyes.
Most toxic.
What are we? What are we? White dudes for Kamala? We can't ignore reality.
Vocal gamers on the internet, and everything since its launch has only worked to further that image. Wukong was a monumental hit. There's no denying that. Within days, it skyrocketed to the 7th most played game on Steam of all time, with a peak concurrent player count of 2.4 million players, but numbers aren't everything. Banana, the viral clicker game that generates Steam Marketplace items, has a higher 24-hour peak than Black Myth Wukong right now by over 100,000 players. Avengers, Infinity War, and Spider-Man No Way Home are among the highest-grossing films of all time, but they didn't walk away with the pinnacle Oscar for good reason. Sales do...
Well, yeah, for movies it's different, okay? For movies it's very, very different, though. But still, even in movies, the weight of how many people watch the film matters a lot.
Not equal quality, but Black Myth Wukong has been weaponized in a culture war ever since it was announced, and it doing well has only been used as ammunition to argue that games media is out of touch with gamers. Not being nominated for any Game of the Year awards, it's October, it's likely going to be in the mix for a lot of sites, and still could be up for many categories at the Game Awards. is just more fuel to prove that point. It hasn't upset fans because they think it's a good game deserving to be among the best.
Okay, you see, they probably understand that they're lying. You cannot be this stupid. Because how the hell do you write this sentence and say, oh, there's so many players currently upset that it's being shafted. There's so many people playing it. There's so many people who loved it. Yet it just doesn't deserve to be there. It just doesn't.
It has upset fans because they see its absence as an attack in their one-sided feud. As we edge...
Yeah, if these fans are like 5, then what does it matter? You can just ignore them and move forward. But strangely, that's not the case now, is it, Buttercup? Huh. It's almost like Hollywood when they blame the anti-woke crowds, the people who hate them and whatnot, and just call them very loud vocal minority. But at the same time, this vocal minority decides what thrives and what dies in Hollywood. That's very strange. They don't want to say that there's power to these people, because there isn't any, in their words, but somehow they still get to decide what wins and what doesn't. It's just so stupid. I don't believe they believe what they're writing here.
Near the big celebratory end of the year closer that is the Game Awards, we are going to see this outrage spiral. If Black Myth Wukong doesn't get a nomination for the main award, it has a few competitors to shut out in Best Action. Its fans will see that as a personal slight. We're witnessing it already, and I've seen my colleagues get attacked over the past year just for covering the game. If fans are this riled up
Boo-hoo, and a bullshit again.
By an award ceremony,
they're probably thinking, oh, I don't agree with your opinion as a personal attack.
Many self-proclaim they've never heard of, or a list of frontrunners that means very little, then I can't see being snubbed from the Game Awards going down well. Man, the lack of self-awareness when saying that the sales of the game were used as ammunition in a culture war, while you yourself are focusing purely on the sales of the game to minimize the entire discussion around the game. That's interesting. It's convenient to go after the outrage of those who can't voice their concerns properly because the writer is absolutely right. Sales does not mean a game should be Game of the Year. If sales were the leading factor, then Baldur's Gate 3 should have lost to Hogwarts Legacy, or Call of Duty should have won for 5 years straight since it was the best-selling game since 2017. There are a slew of other factors here that should be discussed, but the writer and other media pundits aren't taking the time to discuss that. They're just hand-waving the angry gamers and throwing it out into the...
Call of Duty doesn't win because everyone knows it should... there's a lot of people playing it, but everyone, even the people playing it, are kind of like, well, there's no innovation. There's literally nothing. It's just a fucking reskin. We know that. We don't care. That's why these games don't typically win stuff, because everyone knows. That's different.
Bin with the rest of the culture war commentary. Now, my question is...
There are so many unique circumstances to explain about all of this, and they're pretty obvious. It's insane.
Why is it that on the topic of game sales, the Chinese player base is used to minimize the overall impact of the game's sales, success, and popularity? Again, to quote the writer, the game was a monumental hit. There's no denying that. Only to follow it up with, but it succeeded because there was an untapped Chinese market of players. Like, those players don't even count? Why aren't we having a discussion on why, censorship aside, Western games haven't been able to...
to be fair, like, I don't kind of want to count China in anything.
...penetrate that market as effectively as Black Myth Wukong, especially when there are that many players that could make that much of an impact on a game's sales. Black Myth Wukong is just as deserving as any other title that could go up there for Game of the Year. That's not saying that those games aren't worthy either. They are. But the thing is that it just feels like the coverage around this game, the discussions around this game, have just felt off. Purposefully dishonest in a lot of ways. Black Myth Wukong was incredibly popular. It was incredibly popular with the Chinese because it was the first game that really represented their culture and history in a way that could bridge the gap between nations.
That's a blatant lie, by the way.
Players around the world loved it. They connected with it. And because of that, it brought down cultural boundaries. We don't see that very often. It should be something that everybody should be.
Wait, what kind of fucking cultural boundaries did it destroy, okay? I'm pretty sure most people are gonna continue hating China like they always have hated her, hated it, because reasons, obviously. Like, Black Myth Wukong is not gonna break down the boundaries of fucking anything. What the hell are we talking about here? What is this? Now we're trying to find a panacea for, boundaries over countries? What the fuck is this? But no one suddenly loves China because no one suddenly loves China because of fucking Black Myth Wukong, okay? And if you do, you're a retard, okay? Let me just put that straight out there. You definitely fucking are. That's insane. That's such an absolutely insane thing to say, honestly. Oh, I like Black Myth Wukong. Well, better fucking wave that Chinese flag and suck Xi Jinping's shing. Because reason. Oh, 10 out of. What the fuck? Okay? Also, the myth of Wukong is so spread around the world. It's like one of the most actually known myths because it's one of the most famous Chinese myths. And everyone knows about it. You have you have Wu fucking Kong in Dota, League of Legends. Pretty much everywhere you have them. You have in the Smite. If there's a possibility for some kind of fantasy thing, Wukong is gonna be included. Okay, Dragon Ball Son Goku is literally a representation of Son Wukong. Fuck me. Okay, everyone knows about this. This ain't bringing down any boundaries.
Cheering for and happy for. That is the power of this hobby. That is what it can accomplish at times, but we're losing sight of that.
Bro, I ain't gonna love Britain because Britain makes a good game, okay? That's never happening.
I think this all loops back to the fact that game science did not bend the knee in fealty to games media when they started hurling accusations at them, baseless accusations at them, and demanded an answer. They said no comment. That has nothing to do with the game or anything else right now, and they didn't feel that it was in good faith, and they just ignored it entirely. And I think that games media as a whole took offense to that. They didn't like that too much. They don't like it when their power and position is questioned, when their authority, or what little they have left of it, is questioned. This should be a game that we should be celebrating because of the fact that it broke down cultural boundaries. Beyond that, it was a game that was absolutely gorgeous. It was coming from
Okay. Legendary drop. Shut the fuck up. You have broke down 52 from boundaries. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, that was legendary drops. Kind of funny. Bye.